No risk, no reward, no recovery. Steve Wynn says businesses aren't taking a gamble because Washington is stacking the odds against them. That's why the casino mogul is at odds with the White House, period.
I have no idea what is coming down the road from this administration. I know that health care, thanks to Mrs. Pelosi and the administration, is going to go from an 8% annual rate of increase to 12%. All of my union employees have been flattened by this. I am watching the living standard of my employees plummet like a rock. And even if there wasn't a bullseye and crosshairs on the back of every businessman, including myself, I have been losing money in Nevada. I still gave my employees cost of living increases twice in the last year. I had to lend the union, in addition to their annual contractual increase, $2 million recently in order to handle health care. The policies of this administration have destroyed the living standard of the working class in America. What is ostensibly the base of the Democratic Party is taking the worst hit in history because of these unbelievably uninformed policies of this president and his colleagues who have fostered this ridiculous class warfare, these nonsensical policies that have been proven to be ineffective and unsuccessful everywhere they've ever been tried in the world.
But, Steve, I mean, I know you've been a big supporter and backer and confidant of Harry Reid, the prominent Democratic senator from Nevada, just squeaked by with the re-election. And he endorsed this health care plan, led the charge in the Senate for the president. Were these costs escalating even prior to health care coming, or did they just get out of control since health care came?
They were escalating before at a rate of about 8% a year, and the devastation of Obamacare we estimate to be north of 12%. That increased that is to say the rate of escalation of health care costs has increased by 50% because of what they did. And what's incredible,
is that the biggest factor for you, Steve, as far as making decisions down the road and helping out these two Israeli gentlemen, I guess, to expand there? You just wouldn't do it or couldn't do it because you just didn't see the light here?
I can't see the light. I'm frightened to death about the future of business.
But you're not frightened to death abroad. So in Macau and some of these other locales.
Well, the policies are much more steadfast, much more carefully considered. You know what to expect, at least in Macau. People matter in Macau, and working folks there get primary consideration. The president gives lip service to this sort of thing, and the speeches are absolutely enthralling. But so much of what this is all about today is what they do, as opposed to what they say. The speeches are great. The actions are horrifying. I mean, it's almost impossible to believe that they don't know that what they're doing is destructive. Ronald Reagan in 1979 wasn't the Ronald Reagan we refer to now. The president, meaning President Reagan, learned and understood while he was president how the country worked. The same thing, parallel, is true with Bill Clinton, who I know much better than I knew President Reagan, although I did go to the White House one night when he was there. And President Clinton started off with Hillary Care and lost both houses of the government to the Republicans when Haley Barbour was Republican national chairman. Anyway, Clinton learned how the government worked. And although he vilified some of the Republican leadership, he went to the middle, and we had a very well-managed America under a president who was sensitive and adjustable. Exactly the opposite is happening. Our president has become more strident, more divisive. As unemployment has climbed, as the problems in our economy have gotten worse,
well, he's identified, Steve, with these Occupy Wall Streeters. What do you make of that?
I make that the Occupy Wall Street folks are a very diverse group. Some are angry because on the left, some are angry on the right, some are employed, some are unemployed. I think Occupy Wall Street is a perfect example of the nationwide anxiety and frustration that is gripping this country, the dissatisfaction that we are being poorly led. And when you come down to that, Neal, there's only one place to look: the boss. The problems with America, the changes that need to be made, the sacrifices that people have to be made, can only be explained intelligently by a president who really understands how it works. Not a president who's dedicated to redistribution, socialist, big government ideas to the exclusion of all common sense. And again, I don't know how this president or anybody else with two eyes and an IQ above room temperature can miss the fact that the working class of America, union members, are getting killed by the way this economy is being operated. We know that in the history of civilization, the only thing that has ever given a better quality of life to another human being is the demand for that human being's labor in spite of their station in life. If the only thing that makes a better life is a demand for labor, it raises the question, what is the purpose of government? It is to create an environment that fosters a better life for its citizens. That doesn't mean doling out money to them for work they don't do. It's creating an environment where the private sector, the only source of the demand for labor, the only source that was known to mankind in history that creates a demand for human labor is the private sector. We need a rule of law. We need national defense. But we need a government that understands that the most important thing to the life and the happiness of the people who live in every country is that the private sector continues to expand, that people take risks and create jobs. Sure, there's people that get wealthy as a result of that. It's because they risk everything.
But others don't, right, Steve? Now, you risked a lot, but you risked a lot and got wealthy. But I think some of these folks protest, and believe me, I share your angst about it, but some of them go too far, right, and then get rewarded for not taking risks. And they win, in other words, up or down.
Well,
is that right?
There's absolutely true. There's no perfect system. But the fact of the matter remains that the only way that you can have demand for human labor is for private enterprise. No other experiment has ever worked.